Hello again, everybody out there. This is Michael Ware with the next installment of IFC's Warrior Wednesday. We have with us Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I know what riding shotgun means. Why don't you tell everybody what you think it means?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the Warrior Wednesday. To me, it feels funny because when I think of warriors, I think of big tough guys, and the opposite of that.
So we got a guy riding shotgun and Santa Claus here. Okay, we're good.
There we go. Right. So riding shotgun is obviously I've taken the idea of the carpool karaoke and added it to the gun community, or adapted it to the gun community. And riding shotgun is obviously a term we've been using since we were kids about who wants to sit in the passenger seat of the car. So riding shotgun is what I came up with. I had the idea. I actually had the idea after, again, watching carpool karaoke, but I was in Toastmasters for a long time, working on my speaking and presenting skills. And I was doing this manual called Communicating on Video. And we had to interview somebody for 5 to 7 minutes in a talk show format, be interviewed by somebody in the talk show format for 5 to 7 minutes. And I took, there were a few other things in the manual as well, but I took this idea and said, hey, I wanted to be I've been a gun guy, I've been a podcaster, or I wanted to be a podcaster. So I said, I'm going to try to do this, and I'm going to interview people in the car, like carpool karaoke, because I wanted to be a rock star when I was a kid, or even when I was an adult. But I'm going to take this where James Corden goes out and hangs out with rock stars, and I'm going to do this in the gun community, and I'm going to make it work, right? I'm going to call it Riding Shotgun with Charlie. So this is what I got. I interview people in the car as we drive around and talk about what they do, because I want to make my passengers, I don't call them guests, I call them passengers. I want to make them look like rock stars.
You know, it's kind of fun. I mean, when you and I had our initial conversation, I made reference to what was it? Comedians in cars getting coffee, whatever else. And so
yeah, the Seinfeld show.
Yeah. Okay. So before I dumped to Netflix, I did watch that for a while, and I mentioned it to you. I was hoping that I'd get on there and Seinfeld would be, and his guests would be funny because they're all comedians. And as it turned out, some were, some weren't. But I thought it was an interesting concept. You know, you get out there in a vehicle and you drive down the road. And I'll tell you what's been my personal experience. I have a heck of a good bunch of conversation usually when I'm having some windshield time. So the missus and I will jump in, we'll go. And I think what you may notice, I'm sure that you have, because your show, your episodes bear witness to this. But when you're behind the wheel and you've got a passenger or vice versa, you're there. You're committed. And unless one of you is going to jump out at a stop sign or you reckon, you know, when they take that corner, it might be low enough to bail out, you're in it. And so usually you put on your best behavior and you make it work. So you have great conversations because everybody's participating the way that they should, opposed to something else happening and people walking out of the room and slamming doors, whatever else, and things that do happen sometimes in conversation. So you've erected a platform and you've laid it out here where you can go have some meaningful conversations, a little fun, jokes, all these things in between. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. When I visited your site, we've got that showing here for those that are watching. For those that aren't, I want you to go to ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com. When you go do that, you'll be able to see it. Now, I'm looking through here. You've got 231 episodes under your belt. That's amazing.
I've got 234 episodes. I haven't put the others on the website.
Okay. All right. Okay, great.
Yes. So, please, there's no reason I've got over 200 episodes. I started doing the show. I had the idea of the show in 2016. And I bought 2 GoPros off of Craigslist, and I got some suction cup mounts from Amazon, and I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to edit video. I didn't know how to talk. I don't want to say I didn't know how to talk to people, but I didn't really know how to interview people. I certainly had no idea how to edit video. And my biggest concern with editing video is that I don't make it look like some bad Japanese movie from the 1970s, right? Where the mouth is moving and the words aren't jiving with what they're saying. So that was my one of my biggest concerns. And so I had to learn how to edit video. And I ended up I said I was going to call it Writing Shotgun, and then I just interview folks. And then I said, I'm just going to interview gun folks, right? Make it all about guns. And I reached out to, I interviewed some of my local friends, a couple of gun instructors and some musicians. One of the guys I used to play in a band with, and just to practice, to learn how to do this. And then I reached out to Ken Blanchard, who's known as the Black Man with a Gun. He's in the DC area. Yeah, I love Reverend Ken, man. And I used to listen to his podcast, and I reached out to him and I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. I want to interview you because it seemed like he was achievable. Like it seemed like he would say yes, right? Yeah. So he got back to me 2 hours after I emailed. He's like, hey, man, it sounds cool. I'm in. I'm like, this is great. So then I reached out to this other podcaster. His name is Anthony Calandro, and he's got a podcast called Gun for Hire. So I reached out to Anthony. I'm like, hey, man, I'm doing something new. I'd love to come down and interview you. And I never heard back from him. So it took me some time to set up a date with Ken, and I made plans. I was driving down to DC from Massachusetts, and I got a hotel for a night, and it was going to be a road trip, right? Like a 2-day road trip. It was going to be cool. As I'm going through Jersey, I see all these towns that Anthony Calandro mentioned, and I ended up pulling over into the James Gandolfini rest area in North Jersey, and I Google searched the Gun for Hire range, and it wasn't that far from where I was. So I'm like, I'm going to stop by. So I stopped in there, and I actually make videos playing the trumpet with one hand and shooting a gun with the other. And I made one of these for Anthony's birthday one year, and I was smoking a cigar, playing the trumpet, and shooting a gun at the same time. Right? It was all the senses going. So I said, hey, I went into Gun for Hire. I said, I just like to say hi to Anthony. I'm a big fan of the show. And he popped out. He looked at me and he says, you're the guy that plays the trumpet and shoots the gun, right? I'm like, I am. He's like, wait a second. And he comes out, he's got a couple of t-shirts and a hat and some stickers. He's like, this is for you. What are you doing in the area? And I was like, I'm going down to interview Ken Blanchard. And I said, I'm interviewing people in the car. I'm starting a new YouTube channel, and I'm going down to DC to interview Ken Blanchard. And he said, tell the Rev I said hi. And I was like, oh, did I just get a secret handshake? Like, what's going on here? So I had as I was talking with Anthony, I had the two little angels. One of them's like, tell him you emailed him. And the other one's like, don't tell him, he's a businessman. He didn't bring it up. He doesn't want to do the show. So I took a deep breath. I sucked it in. I'm like, I would love to interview you. I emailed you. Would you be interested in being on the show? And he's like, absolutely. Here's my phone number. Let me know when you're going to be back in town. I'm like, holy crap. So I drove down to DC. I got up the next morning. I interviewed Ken. I drove back to Jersey. I reached out to Anthony, interviewed Anthony, and I went home, and I was buzzing. I was completely buzzing. And I'm like, this is great. I don't know what to do with all this. I don't know how to edit video, but I have these shows on these memory cards, and I'm good to go. And then I was one of my friends, and this is bizarre how it works out, but this girl I was friends with back in 1994, she was in the clique of people I used to hang out with. She moved to Minneapolis. Her husband was a conservative talk show host. His name was Lee Michaels, and Lee had been robbed at gunpoint. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, I know you're, actually, this is even crazier. Lee's story ended up in the book Lessons from Unarmed America by Mark Walters and Rob Pincus. Okay. So I said, hey, I didn't know this was your husband, because I was like, hey, she's like, oh, my husband's a gun guy, and whatever. And then I found out he was robbed and he was in this book. So I'm like, I want to come out to Minneapolis and interview your husband. And we're working all the details out. And Lee says to me, if you come this particular weekend, Mark Walters from Armed American Radio is going to be here. I bet you could interview him. And I'm like, that's big time. This is great. So a month after I interviewed Anthony and Ken, I'm flying to Minneapolis for a weekend. I interviewed Lee, I interviewed Mark Walters, and I interviewed this other gentleman. His name is Peter Johnson. He's with Archway Defense, and he's showing me, he's like, this is what you do with videos. I'm like, I don't know how to edit videos. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I got to interview these guys. Mark reached out to me the next day, and he said, hey, do you want to, he says, I want to help out with this because this is really cool what you're doing, interviewing people in the car. I'm like, all right, cool. So sounds like a plan. I don't know what he's talking about, but I'll take whatever help I can get. And then he called me 2 days after that. And he says, would you like to speak at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Tampa, Florida in a month? And I'm like, yes, I would. I would love to. So it legit went from an idea in the spring of 2016 to me speaking at the Gun Rights Policy Conference at the end of September. And I'm like, this is crazy talk. And I haven't put anything out. I've just been recording shows, and I barely know how to edit videos. So from at Gun Rights Policy Conference, I got to meet other people like Amanda Suffolcool from Eye on the Target Radio, and just started to become friends with everybody else, and more people and more people. And then, hey, I interview people in the car. Are you coming to SHOT Show? Are you coming to this? Are you coming to this? And it's been absolutely fabulous, man. I really absolutely love my gig.
Well, it sounds like an exciting start. I mean, we interviewed Reverend Ken Blanchard for Warrior Wednesday, I think 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It was a breath of fresh air, quite an inspiration to see that, to learn about really him and some folks like him being pioneers in the podcast community long before it was posh or popular by far. Very cool.
I'm telling you, this was 2011. 2011. I think I still had a BlackBerry. That's how long ago it was, right? Mm-hmm. But I was looking for podcasts, and I found Gun for Hire, and I found the Black Man with a Gun podcast. And I'm like, I'm going to listen to these guys. And you know how it is when you listen to somebody in podcast, you're in your car, you've got headphones on, you're having some sort of an intimate relationship with a complete stranger.
Yeah.
Because you're taking all this in your car. I remember, the gal I was dating when I had this idea and I started doing this, I told her, I said, I'm going to go down to DC and I'm going to interview this guy, Ken Blanchard. And I said, she's like, who is he? And I'm like, he's got this podcast, The Black Man with a Gun. So she's like, you're going to go down to Washington, DC, and you're going to interview some guy who's a black guy who's got a gun that you've never met before. I'm like, yes. And she's like, that's crazy. I'm like, I don't think so. I think it sounds really cool. Yeah. And I'll tell you that I'm going to GRPC. I fly down to Tampa in that September 2016, and I know two people that are going to be at Gun Rights Policy Conference. One of them was Mark Walters. The other guy was this gentleman, and I've been friends with him since then. His name is Brent, and Brent is just a super fan. That's all he really is. So I met him in Minneapolis, and he said he was going to Gun Rights Policy Conference. So I'm like, yeah, of course we'll hang out and all that kind of stuff. I get to the airport at Tampa, and I'm trying to find my way around, and who do I see but Ken Blanchard? Right at the airport. I'm like, hey man, are you going to GRPC? He's like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, oh, this is great. And this is how you know you're in a crowd with your people.
You are, and the world is smaller than what you might think. You mentioned Anthony Calandro. He and I were placed on the NRA Clubs and Associations Committee in the same year at the same time when we were both rookies. And I want to say, and this is I don't remember if he was a board member yet. He came to be board member later, or that was his first year. I don't remember. But I want to say this was like 7 or maybe 8 years ago. And we had a pretty good time, and we connected. And I honestly, I do owe him probably some text message or whatever else just to catch up, because it's been a while since I visited with him. But I like going and watching his stuff. He's very in your face. He's very matter of fact. I appreciate that. And he is in a hostile work environment doing a really good job. And so I'm glad that he's made it work there. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, he's in New Jersey, about, I think he says 15 miles outside of New York City. So it really is the belly of the beast in Jersey, and he went from having, I guess he went from having a small range to building a bigger range to building this huge range. Huge. Yeah. I've been there a few times. It's unbelievable.
I wouldn't want to guess at the red tape associated with building a monster range complex in Jersey.
Yeah, and
I
it's
mean, you're almost saying that makes me wonder if it can even happen, but he's proof.
oh, absolutely. And there's like a little gas station next to him, and there's restaurants, like fast food restaurants around him. There's a strip mall that's, you pull off the highway. There's a strip mall and a diner, and then the gun for hire range. It's wild, man.
So did you have reservations when you began? You're just like, hey, I'm going to give this a whirl. It doesn't take a tremendous amount to get up and running, and we'll just go have some fun, or was there a business plan?
There is still no business plan.
Okay. All right.
I wish there was, and I've read all sorts of how to turn YouTube into a business and all that sort of thing. The things to me that the things that don't pay the bills are the things that I like, right? Like
how that works.
Like legit making friends with people all around the country. And I this is a true story. So I spoke at the Heller 10 celebration in 2018. I went down. I'm been into this for 2 years, right? Like trying to be a YouTuber and a podcaster and whatever. I spoke at the Gun Rights Policy Conference in 2016. So I spoke there in 2017. And then in summer of 2018, I had some friends that were going to this Heller 10 celebration and in DC. And I'm driving down to DC to go hang out with them because what else am I supposed to do, right?
Right.
And then I get a phone call from one of my friends. They're like, hey, we're at Dick Heller's house. I'm like, oh my God, dude, that is so cool. That is just incredible. She's like, yeah, I got to go. And she hangs up and I'm like, when she says we're at Dick Heller's house, does she mean her and the people she's with, or do I get to go too? Like, so she calls me back and she's like, you can come, here's his address. And I'm hanging out at Dick Heller's house. I ended up speaking on the Supreme Court steps. I have no idea how I got there. No idea how there was this rally going on and supposedly Ted Cruz was going to speak, but then there were some anti-Trump folks. This was 2018. There were some anti-Trump folks that were out there and they're like, Ted Cruz isn't speaking. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you're on next. You're going to take Ted Cruz's spot and you're on in 2 minutes. And I'm like, holy crap. How does it, I can't do this. So you get up and give a speech. And then in 20, like I talked to Dick and exchanged numbers and whatnot. And in 21, I was going to, oh man, maybe it was 2020. I forget, 2020, 21. I was going to speak. I was going to go into this thing in New Jersey, and Dick Heller was going to be one of the speakers, and Gabby Franco, who you've had on the show, Gabby Franco was going to be there too. So I'm like, this is really cool. I'm like, you know what I want to do? I want to go shooting sporting clays with Gabby and Dick. Like, this will be really cool. So I'd become friends with this gentleman. His name is John Petrolino, and he writes for Bearing Arms and The Truth About Guns and Ammo Land and Shooting News Weekly and all sorts of stuff. So he's got a book called Decoding Firearms. So he and I have become really good friends over the past several years. So I'm like, hey man, we gotta go. Like, Dick and Gabby are coming up, and we gotta go to Pennsylvania and do sporting clays with them. So I called Dick and left him a message, and I'm like, he's never going to call back. And I was driving to the Midwest with my son, and we come out of the rest area, and my phone is ringing, and it says Dick Heller. I'm like, you're going to have to drive, buddy, because I got to talk to Dick Heller. And I get a Dick on the phone. I'm like, hey, we're going to be at this event. I don't know when you're coming in. Do you want to go do sporting clays in Pennsylvania? You can rent the guns there. It's not a big deal. You can buy ammo. Everything's fine and cool. And he's talking about, like, off the deep end stuff. He's like, back in the 1600, this was going on with this was 20, this must have been 21, because he's talking about Biden. He's like, Biden's doing this, and the French did this back in the 1600s, and they were beheading their politicians and their kings. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool, Dick, but do you want to go sporting clays? Like, we're on phones, and China's probably listening. Do you want to go sporting clays or not? So it's this is the stuff that doesn't pay the rent that I absolutely love to have. So the game plan was I wanted to increase my circle of friends. right? Because it was like me in Massachusetts, and I wanted to increase my circle of friends. So I'm like, if I can go out and interview other people and make more friends in other places, then this is gold. This is good stuff to have.
Well, it's kind of funny you're talking about paying the rent. We all try and do that. IFC is a volunteer organization. We're trying very hard to make sure that we increase our membership, that we have membership, and because we're no different than anybody else. You got to have dollars if you're going to pay, right? And so you don't get all the work done with a handshake and a smile only. So go see our trusted partners at iowafc.org. There are plenty of businesses there that offer tangible discounts and goods and codes and that kind of thing for IFC members. We're trying to add value added to our membership all the time. And you may not know this, or you may, but we're running raffles now so that you can go. I think what we've got going on at the moment is some sort of 22, I think. Yeah, as a matter of fact, at the moment, about half the tickets are sold. But we do all those things because we're trying very hard as a volunteer organization to make it all work. So we're not unfamiliar with the idea of the business plan or not a business plan, and the rent still has to be paid. I understand completely. So when let me ask this. Have you had any situations where, okay, I'm sure that you've had situations where you're like, that will never make it on camera. But I have no doubt there have probably been over 234 episodes. You've probably had some stuff like, we got to edit that out. But, is there any insight that you can give us into that?
I tell people the only thing that hits the editing room floor are my feet. Like I say everything's in from welcome to this episode till we'll see you next time. There have been I record the stuff on the GoPros on memory cards. I put the memory cards, I upload them to an external hard drive. So the first 35 episodes maybe I have on one external hard drive, and it fell off my desk and it broke. So there was one interview on there that I wasn't able to, I ended up with some videos on my laptop, not on the hard drive, and I wasn't able to salvage that episode. There have been a couple of episodes. There was one episode where somebody said to me, they're like, "Hey, this I wasn't happy with the way that I presented myself. Can we do another interview another time?" I'm like, absolutely. That's totally cool. I hate to say this one because it's very unprofessional of me, but I went to gun prom at San Diego County Gun Owners a couple years ago, and I may have been over self-served, if you know what I mean. And I got up the next day to interview some people, and I'm like, "Oh, we have to pull over right now." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I get out of the car and puke my brains out.
Great.
Like we can't put that in. And then this person called me up and they're like, can we do this another time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of those, but other than that, I don't want to say there's not a lot of editing, but I don't cut too much out because I had some of my friends that early on, they're like, "Hey man, why don't you turn it down to you talk to these podcast people and they're 17 or 20 minutes is the ideal time, like short, nuggets like that." I'm like, I'm not getting in an airplane and flying all the way across the country that I pay for, and I buy a rental car, and I'm going to pay for the flight, and I got to pay for food, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to interview somebody for 45 minutes and turn it into a 12-minute interview. That's crazy. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I tried at the very beginning, I tried taking the interviews and cutting them up into 15 or 20-minute segments. And I got, part 1, part 2, part 3. And then somebody says, "Why don't you just do the Joe Rogan thing and play just leave the whole interview?" I'm like,
definitely.
That's a little bit easier to do. I can do that. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's been well over a year ago, and it might've been something that was mentioned on Warrior Wednesday. I don't recall who I was talking to, but it was some sort of interview with somebody. I don't think so, but when you were talking about the San Diego folks, what's the name of their program?
So there's the San Diego County Gun Owners. They have a radio show called Gun Owners Radio.
Yes. It might have been on there. I was on there. It was, anyway, it doesn't matter. But I made mention. I said, if Trump truly wants to get elected, he wants to overcome some of the talking heads on the mainstream media. I said, he probably ought to be going out and jumping on all the podcasts he can jump on. And the person I was talking with says, well, that's fraught with peril. I'm like, no. I said, I think he does well in those environments, number one. I said, and number two, I said, the American public, the world for that matter, is going to get an idea what this guy's truly about compared to his opponents. Because when you sit down in front of Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn and Sean Ryan and whoever the big podcasters are, when you sit down in those programs, you're in it for the duration. You start, you go through, and you finish. And you've got, hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's a marathon, and they're not chopping things out. Not that I'm aware of.
Not at all. Not at all.
Right.
I heard that, I think it was, I don't know if it was Joe Rogan or Theo, but they wanted to try to, I know that Joe Rogan said he wanted to get Kamala on, and they wouldn't do it. Right. They're not going to take the questions they give her. And we know that she's not really good on her feet. So they're going to get destroyed in this format. And like you said about having conversations in the car, the conversations I have with people are completely different from doing shows like this or doing a phone interview, or, it's different because you're in a car with somebody. And I have people say to me, they're like, so you have 3 cameras up here. Where should I look? Look wherever you want, because I'm driving. I got to make sure we don't get into a car accident. So and then there are plenty of, there have been a handful of times, there have been a number of times when I'm in the, doing the show and they're telling some story and it goes on. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to come up with a follow-up question with this. like, where are we going to go from here, Charlie? You got to come up with something. You got to come up with something intelligent too.
Yeah. We're 30 miles from where we're supposed to stop. So we're going to have to fill the gap somehow.
We have as long as the batteries in the camera work, which is they work about an hour, and that's about as much time as I can get on the memory card. So it's great, man. I've got I think I get the 4 terabyte external hard drives. I've got about 5 or 6 of these things loaded up with videos. Yeah. I got to tell you this too. So the 100th episode, I reached out to Alan Gottlieb from Second Amendment Foundation. I said, Alan, would you be on my 100th episode? He's like, absolutely. And the Second Amendment Foundation flew me out to Bellevue, Washington to film the shows. And I got to drive Alan Gottlieb's Corvette around, which is really cool. Right. And that was the 100th episode, and episode 101 was Hickok 45. Believe me, when I started editing videos, I'm like, when do I become successful at this? When it's 100 videos, when it's 50 videos, like, when is it, And I was editing a show this past Sunday. And I was like, you know what? I like my show. I like it's cool because people get a lot more comfortable, and they're willing to talk a little bit more. They're much more relaxed driving in a car with somebody, and you don't have to look at each other. And I put a hood cam on the car too, so I can. This is a little selfish of me, but I can get video of all the places that I'm driving. And I've got a really cool gig, man. I absolutely love what I do.
It's amazing how it works when you're beside somebody. I figured this out by accident. My daughter's 16 now, but when she was half this age, she showed a lot of skill. She's no different than any little girl. She wants to make cookies, right? Okay, well, I am not good at making cookies. I don't know if my wife is either. Actually, I know the answer to that, but would rather stay married than talk about it. So nobody is great at making cookies in our house. So my daughter wants to do these things and whatever else. And so we start watching videos on, good, practices for baking and all these other things. And the next thing you know, I'm like, we should start doing this kind of cooking. So then it was, let's delve into what constitutes really good kitchen cutlery. And we filled out a set with different items that we bought purpose over the course of a year. Now we're cooking side by side. We're chopping broccoli. We're doing all this stuff, right? Nice. And what I ended up finding out was it was a tremendous relationship building time for us because it allowed us to do something side by side, which took the pressure off of staring at one another.
Oh yeah.
And all the things associated with that. I'm not saying that she and I shy away from that. I wouldn't encourage anybody to run from that, but it's an easy way to have a great dialogue without some of the pressures associated with like being on a stand, like you're in a witness stand and somebody coming at you or else, which can happen in conversation. So I don't know, you doing this behind the windshield is akin in my mind to some of the things that I remember when I was starting to build a better relationship with my daughter and now with my son too. And so it's just, I think it's a tremendous thing. I love it. Now, here's what I will say. It's patently obvious the YouTube gods hate you and they've got something out for you. I'm not kidding. I'm almost to the point of getting really alley about it because when I go look on your the YouTube channel itself and I see just a shade over 2,000 subscribers, I'm like, this is wrong. This got to be wrong. And I'm like, and I even said it in front of my wife the other day. She's like, what do you mean? I said, this should not say 2K. It should say 200K. That's what it ought to have. And she's like, well, what are you saying? I'm like, I said, I think he's getting absolutely suppressed to the bottom. This is great stuff. People should be watching and listening to this. Some of this stuff's hilarious. Some of it's just fun and some of it's great. But Charlie, I love it. What's going on that we can't get more people driven over there?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. I would love to see 200,000 people on the YouTube channel too. I don't know that I would like to think that YouTube isn't suppressing it. I do. So I make videos playing the trumpet and shooting a gun at the same time. And I call these GunGrams, and I have a different YouTube channel for those. I feel like a junkie when I tell people I have 4 or 5 YouTube channels, right? But I do. And obviously I put the most time and energy into riding shotgun than any of the others. But the GunGram one started off as a fluke. And like I said, in 2015, I started making videos playing the trumpet and shooting a gun at the same time. And those kind of took off. And I've only got 6 million views on my YouTube channel, but they've been used by Markiplier, who's some YouTube guy that does these like try not to laugh videos. One of them was a couple videos were used on Comedy Central. Like Chris Hardwick used them for a show he was using on Comedy Central. So it has this huge YouTube following, which is great. And I think there's only 30,000 subscribers on there. I got an email a couple weeks ago from somebody. He's like, hey man, I'm with my buddies. We're drunk. We're watching these videos. These are great. You're a good human being, right? I'm like, this is awesome. But those, I've had a couple of those taken down. I got in January, February, and March of this year. I think each of those months I got a notification from YouTube that says one of the videos violates their community standards. And I'm like, if one violates it, I'm doing the same thing in all 300 videos. They're all violating it. And I'm like, if they take it down, they take it down, whatever. It is what it is. But the riding shotgun stuff, people are like, whoa, are they coming down on your channel? I'm like, dude, I'm not shooting guns. It's 2 people in a car talking. So the boggling thing to me is I can go to events and some people recognize me. Some people say, hey, I know you from someplace. I actually had the gun prom in San Diego a couple years ago. I sat with this one gentleman all night long and he's like, so what do you do? I'm like, yeah, I got on the YouTube channel where I interview people in the car. He's like, okay, cool, whatever. And I give him my card. And then he messages me the next day. He's like, oh my God, dude, I am so sorry. I didn't put the 2 of those things together. I'm a huge fan. I had no idea. I'm like, oh, how big of a fan can you be? Right. But, it's I don't know if YouTube is. I would hate to think that they're doing it, but as you said, I have the show on Gunstreamer and on Rumble, and in December I think it was, I was home for Christmas vacation time, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to see how the Rumble's doing because I don't really put videos on there religiously, and I find out that like there's 120 views on one. I'm like, that's more than there is on YouTube. So I spent my Christmas vacation putting a bunch more videos on Rumble. I also put the videos on Gunstreamer, and Gunstreamer, like more people watch the stuff on Gunstreamer than on YouTube. And I'm like, I don't share anything on Rumble. I don't share anything on Gunstreamer. On my Facebook page, when I put out shows, I put a link to the YouTube channel. I'm an instructor, so I have a busy mail, and a busy mail is an episode of Riding Shotgun, some articles I think people need to know, and a list of my upcoming classes, and a quote, a pro gun quote. And this is where I send out stuff. I send out the YouTube link because I know YouTube is where everything is. But when I put out a show and 84 people watch it, I'm like, how can this be? This can't be, you know? And then I get folks like you that are like, hey, we're in the cornfield in Iowa, man. We're watching the show. I'm like, wait, what?
Well, Charlie, where do you want us to go? I mean, okay, again, this is Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Where do you want us to go? Do you have a primary spot you want us to view? I mean, tell us how you want us to handle it.
So if people watch it on YouTube, that would be great. That would be great. I've got a Facebook page, obviously. I actually, in April, I went down to the NRA annual meetings in Atlanta, and the NRA did something new this year. They had a media row, and they called it Voices of the Second Amendment. Yeah. So I was given a booth. I was given the opportunity to have a booth, and I took it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, just record audio shows. I'm like, I can't do video because it's too much. It's 3 hours long. And now it's going to be a mess of editing. I just did audio, and the strictly the audio stuff. So I got the audio. I would get a picture of me and the person I was talking to, and I would I put the audio out on all the podcast stuff where I send all my podcast out to Libsyn or whatever, and then I put a still picture with me and the person with the audio underneath it, and I put that on YouTube. And the podcasts get way more listens than the YouTube views of those particular shows, you know? So if you're a podcast person, you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. If you're a video person, you can find it on YouTube or on Gunstreamer and Rumble.
Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. You know, maybe I should ask you, we've only been publishing out Warrior Wednesday to X, YouTube, and Facebook. And we probably, because we're using the StreamYard platform now, which will segregate it into audio only. Should we be doing these things in podcast form across all those other platforms, or what do you suggest?
I'm not gonna claim to be an expert, but I'm gonna say yes, because there are things that I listen to that are just podcasts. Like Cam Edwards puts out his show on Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. I listen to that. I don't watch it, but I know he puts the video up. You know, so if you've got audio and video, I say put them both out. You know, if you want to figure out which one works better, you know, I've been rethinking the last couple months. I'm like, maybe I should just do audio stuff, right? But I don't think I've had people say you should video people in the car on StreamYard like this and get some green screen and make it look like you're driving. I'm like, 1, no. 2, that sounds like it's more work. 3, it's going to have not the same feel to it. So no, I'm not going to do that. I will buck up and, you know, find ways to make all these things happen. But I don't think I want to do that, because that sounds like it's even more work for a guy who doesn't, you know, who barely knows how to edit video. Now I've got to put green screens behind everybody.
Yeah. Well,
that's
it tends to not be nearly as genuine when you're out here in my neck of the woods and you pull up to a stop sign. You've got both these cameras facing you and your guest. And behind you, you see cattle walking. You know, you don't get that a lot on green screen. So I can see how a little bit of the home feel evaporates when that's gone. But
that would be funny. I filmed a show in Iowa in 21. I did a MAG 40 class in Sioux Falls, and I drove from Massachusetts. I grew up an hour south of Chicago, so I stayed with some friends on the first night. I got up the next day. I drove to, oh my gosh, Davenport? I think it was probably Davenport. I interviewed Janelle. Oh gosh.
Westrom.
Yes. Yeah, from Davenport Guns. That's it. It's from Davenport. I interviewed her. She's a lot of fun, man. She was great. And she's like, oh yeah, my father had the patent for the M16 for a bunch of years. And you're like, holy moly, man. So I interviewed her, and then I went on to Sioux Falls. When I was in Sioux Falls, I filmed 3 shows. I filmed one with Rob Beckman. from the Firearm Trainers podcast. I filmed one with Stephanie Widener, and I filmed one with Neil Widener, and they're both with the Active Self Protection. And then I stopped in Nebraska and filmed a show with somebody in Nebraska, and then I went and filmed a show with Anna Taylor from Dean Adams in Kansas City, and then I drove home back to Massachusetts, and a week later I was in Ohio for a Faster Saves Lives class, and I did two shows in the middle of Wentworth, Ohio, I think it was.
Okay.
So my attitude has become, anytime I go someplace for almost anything, I've got to find somebody I can film a show.
I'm not suggesting what you do is easy. I'm not saying that. And you know that it's very, very taxing and very, very hard from time to time. But if you think about it, it wouldn't be that bad to, like you said, grab a couple GoPros, some suction cups, and see if you could make it work. I'm not suggesting that everybody goes out and flood with videos like that, because here's the other thing. You still want to be a good driver. You know what I mean? And I see a lot of people that are up there and they're holding their phone at themselves as they're driving down. I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. It's probably illegal, and you're going to die soon, so be careful.
Right. You're going to get yourself into an accident. You're going to hurt yourself or somebody else. But yeah, it's like you said, the conversations in cars are different. My son would when my son was a teenager, he would open up a little bit more in the car when we didn't have to look at each other. We could have a conversation. He could, talk more about stuff. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. I'm going to find a way to run with this,
Fantastic. All right. Is he going to be, are we going to see you riding shotgun with Charlie Jr. at some point, or what?
No, so my son, when he was in high school, and he's still very much into movies. So I'm like, hey bud, you can take my cameras, you can use the video editing software. I'll show you how to use what I know how to do. And you should make videos reviewing movies. I'm not going to do that. I'm like, no, this would be kind of cool, man. This would be kind of fun. I don't think I want to do that. Oh, okay. So he's got a job as an accountant, and, works 8:30 to 5 every day, and rock and roll. He's doing awesome.
Fantastic. All right. Anything we need to know before we wrap things up? Riding shotgun with Charlie. If you're not watching this thing on Rumble, Gunstreamer, anywhere else, so certainly YouTube, you guys should be subscribing and watching this stuff. It's really, really good. I have enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm glad that you're able to come visit with us today. But riding shotgun with Charlie, what do we need to know before we go here?
So, well, I'll tell you, this is parlayed itself into other stuff. In 2019, I got at the Gun Rights Policy Conference, I got the award as the Blogger of the Year, and I ran around for 2 days. I'm like, Blogger of the Year, didn't write a word. So I talked to the guys at Ammo Land, and I came home from that, and I'm like, I need to parlay this into something cool. Right. So I was like, I got to get a car and drive around the country, interview people, and take this, like, my teaching job gives me the summer off. So I'm like, I can take the summer off and drive all over the country and crank shows out and all this kind of stuff. So I reached out to the guys at AmmoLand, and I said, hey, would you guys be interested in publishing my award-winning show? And they're like, yeah, you got to write 600 words for our SEO for the website. I'm like, oh, you're like,
man. Come on, Freddie, can the video
I know.
Be enough?
So I've been, people can find the show on AmmoLand, but I write, at least 600 words for AmmoLand, but it ends up being, 675, 700 words. YouTube lets you put in 5,000 characters in the show description. So writing has led to, it first led to Trampus Swanson from Swanson Media Group reached out to me, and he says, hey, what do you do with shows when you're done with them? I'm like, I go to the next one. And he's like, do you ever write about them? I'm like, no. Well, other than the show description, no. He's like, we want you to write for Armed Lifestyle magazine, and we want you to talk about the people that you interview, and we want to call it Writing Shotgun with Charlie. And I'm like, that's kind of cool. Wow. So what I do is we find out whatever the theme is for the issue of Armed Lifestyle magazine, and I find someone that is in that area, like what the focus is, and I re-interview that person on Zoom, and I put that audio out, and then I write write an article on that, which on the 2 interviews, which is pretty cool. So I started doing that, and that actually led to writing for another website called News 2A. And I try to write about the stuff that's going on in Massachusetts, or some opinion things and whatnot. So I am pedaling as fast as I can. So if you want to find anything Charlie Cook related, there's Writing Shotgun with Charlie. There's writing RIDING, Writing Shotgun. There's Writing Shotgun, and there's News 2A. So that's where. Oh, and of course the GunGrams. If you look up like Clock Trumpet Duet, you'll find those. I'm out here pedaling as fast as I can to meet guys like you, so I can be on more shows and increase my circle of friends and get more people to start watching the show.
Oh man, that's fantastic. That sounds akin to the American dream. I really, really like it. I didn't know some of those other things. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you're very busy if that's the case. That sounds like a lot of work.
It seems like I go to work and then I come home and sit on my couch and pass out. And then I get up the next day and go to work, and I come home, I sit down. I'm like, ooh, people like, you want to get together? I'm like, it needs to be quick because I'm going to bed soon.
Yeah. No. I know how that works. Believe me, I own and operate my own business. This is what you have to do. You got to hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love it. Right. I mean, if people, I don't know who said it, but a million people have. If you do what you want, if you do what you do for free, and eventually you'll make money for it or whatever. Yeah, I'm sure you know that. I'm not coming up with anything, but I love what I do. I absolutely love it. I love watching my show because I get like I do the interview, and I do the interview and I ride with the people, and then I get a chance to revisit the show when I edit it, and then I go back and do show notes on it. And one of the things that I think is pretty cool is for the longest time I've been into motivational speakers. So I have a favorite quote section in the show notes, and it's 3, 4, maybe 5 things that people said that I was like, this is really cool. And I always tell people, when you say something deep and profound, I'm going to zoom into your face. And they're like, well, you're never going to zoom into my face. I'm like, no. There will be something in there that's cool. And I like to do that to make a point about something that somebody says. So it's good stuff. I love my gig. I love my gig. I love what I do. I can't imagine not doing it.
Was the quote that you were looking for something akin to when you do what you love, or something like that?
A day in your life. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that is it. So, someday some angel's going to come down and praying her wand, and I'm not going to have a day job. I'm just going to, get to travel around the country and interview people and put videos out, and that would be really cool.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to watch for more. Thank you, Charlie. Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Writing Shotgun with Charlie. What was the other GunGrams, and what was the fourth one?
GunGrams and News 2A and Armed
2A.
Lifestyle Magazine. Armed Lifestyle Magazine is a free resource. News, the number 2, the letter A. Those are some guys out of New Jersey. And my very good friend John Petrolino, it was kind of like a school dance the way this happened, because he went to me and said, hey, if you want to start writing for these guys are starting a new website. It's called News 2A. If you want to start writing with them, I think I could get you on this. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, man. And then he turned to them and he's like, look, there's this guy, Charlie. He's got a YouTube channel. I think I could get him to write for you guys.
Yep. There you go.
Right. And so yep. I want to put out more articles there, but I just don't put enough time into it. And I'm just trying to keep up with all the stuff that I'm doing, man. So I appreciate being on the show. I'm glad you reached out, Michael, and I'm honored to be on with you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Charlie. We'll see you soon. Hey, on YouTube, we want to see that number bigger. Like and subscribe, guys. Thank you.